In this section, we are going to talk about the metabolism of nitrogen. Now, nitrogen is the essential mineral element that is required in the largest quantity by the plant. In fact, carbon, hydrogen, oxygen and nitrogen together they are said to be the framework elements which form the maximum structural entity of a plant. Now, apart from carbon, hydrogen and oxygen, nitrogen is the most prevalent element in any living organism, including that of the plants. In fact, if you look at it, in a human being, 65% is oxygen, 18% is carbon dioxide, 10% is hydrogen and 3% is nitrogen. Similarly, plant also requires nitrogen in the form, but normally plant absorbs this nitrogen in the form of either ammonium ion or nitrate ion. In fact, nitrogen is a constituent of amino acids, proteins, hormones. It is present in chlorophyll and it is part of many vitamins, and it is also a constituent of nitrogen bases which make up the nucleic acids, which is nothing but DNA and RNA. So nitrogen is a very important element. Plants compete with the microbes for limited nitrogen that is available in the soil. As we've already discussed in the previous chapter, the nitrogen uptake only carbon dioxide, water and oxygen, which are the sources of the CHO, this carbon, hydrogen and oxygen, only those are taken from the atmosphere. Everything else, including nitrogen, is taken from the soil. In fact, plants have a competition with microorganisms which are also in the soil for the requirement of your limited nitrogen. So nitrogen is a very limiting nutrient for both natural agricultural ecosystems. Now, no matter which ecosystem the plant is growing in, because it is always in competition with other organisms, especially microorganisms, nitrogen becomes the one nutrient that is available in a very limited source and that gets depleted also very easily. Okay. Now, this is the form of nitrogen. This is the diatomic nitrogen or N2 where it is present with a triple bond, a 3 covalent bond is present between two nitrogen atoms. This is diatomic nitrogen. Now, the process of converting this molecular diatomic nitrogen into ammonia, let us see what is it. Ammonia, nitrogen oxides, nitrites and nitrates is called nitrogen fixation. Now, why are we doing this? Why is nitrogen undergoing fixation? Because molecular nitrogen cannot be directly absorbed by the plants. So, this molecular nitrogen is converted into the absorbable form. Absorbable form of what? Of soil. It is in the gaseous state. From gaseous state it is converted into ammonia, nitrogen oxides, nitrites, nitrates, which are all present in the soil, and through the soil the plant is going to absorb it. Okay, and this process is called as nitrogen fixation. There is a equation that is given for nitrogen fixation, which is nitrogen combined with 8 protons, 8 electrons and 16 ATP gives rise to 2 ammonia molecules. Okay, this is one of the many equations that is associated with nitrogen fixation. In fact, this equation is associated with biological nitrogen fixation. Now, what is biological nitrogen fixation? Nitrogen fixation is of two types, abiological and biological. Now, abiological means where you use physical substances or chemical processes to carry out the nitrogen fixation. Whereas biological means you are using microorganisms to carry out the nitrogen fixation. Okay, and nitrogen fixation in fact is one of the many steps that is seen in the nitrogen cycle. So let us understand what is nitrogen cycle. So this structure that we are seeing here, this is called as, this cycle is represents that of nitrogen cycle. Now, nitrogen cycle is defined as the cyclic movement of nitrogen from atmosphere to soil and back. Means the atmospheric nitrogen is converted into the absorbable forms in the soil, that is in the form of nitrate, nitrite or ammonia. From there it goes to the plant body, and again the nitrogen is released back from the plant body and back to the atmosphere. So this cyclic process is called as your nitrogen cycle, and in this process plants, animals and microorganisms play a very important role. Now this is a cyclic process, as you can see in the diagram, and this cyclic process involves 5 steps. The first step is nitrogen fixation. Nitrogen fixation. Okay, then the second step is called nitrogen assimilation. Nitrogen assimilation. Assimilation. The third step is called ammonification. Ammonification. The fourth step is called nitrification. Nitrification. And the fifth step is called denitrification. So 5 steps, which starts from nitrogen fixation and ends with denitrification, where atmospheric ammonia or atmospheric nitrogen is converted to various absorbable forms, absorbed by plants and animals, again returned back to the atmosphere in a cyclic manner. So this is called as nitrogen fixation. Now, in the first step that we are talking about, that is nitrogen fixation, we have already seen that it is of 2 types. There is the abiological nitrogen fixation and the biological nitrogen fixation, which is clearly seen in this diagram also. If it's a biological nitrogen fixation, as said about like this here, then there will be special group of bacteria called as nitrogen fixing bacteria. Nitrogen fixing bacteria, and what it does, it converts nitrogen into ammonia, which is given here. Okay, but if it is not undergoing the biological process, then it is undergoing either the physical process or the chemical process. So if it's a physical process or there is an abiological process, there are 2 ways that it undergoes. A chemical method, which is called as the Haber-Bosch process. It is called as the Haber-Bosch process, which is given here, and in this process also nitrogen is converted into ammonia. What happens in this process? This is an industrial process where nitrogen combines with H2 under a very high temperature of 450 degrees centigrade and 100 bars of pressure. 100 bars of pressure, where nitrogen gets converted into ammonia. Okay, so this is the Haber-Bosch process. Other than these 2, the third one is the physical process. In the physical process, here we are talking about lightning. So what happens in the physical process? Physical process involves 2 steps. The first step is the nitrogen combines with the oxygen in the atmosphere during the presence of lightning. Thunder and lightning, the electric charges that come from lightning, they convert nitrogen, they combine nitrogen and oxygen to form nitric oxide, 2NO, nitric oxide. Okay, now the next process is ozonization, where the 2 nitric oxide molecules, they combine with the oxygen. They combine with either 2 nascent oxygen or 3 nascent oxygen, and when they combine like this, what happens is they form either 2NO2 or N2O5, which is our nitrogen peroxide. Okay, then in the third step, what happens? In the third step, if it is 2NO2, this combines with water and it forms into HNO2. Sorry for that. Yeah, it forms into HNO2. Okay, or HNO3, which is nitric acid or nitrous acid, which comes onto the soil as acid rain. If it is if it is N2O5, it combines with water to form 2 molecules of nitric acid, which also comes as acid rain. So the acid rain comes onto the Earth's atmosphere. Now on the Earth's atmosphere, what happens? Once the rain lands on the soil, the HNO3 combines with the calcium or potassium salts that are present in the soil, and they form calcium or potassium nitrates. So the end of physical process of your nitrogen fixation is formation of nitrate. The end of your chemical process or biological process is formation of ammonia, or it can be further. So anyways, either ammonia or nitrate, either thing is formed after the nitrogen fixation.